Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the first episode of Discover Hospitality, a series where we discover the hidden jobs and careers in the hospitality industry and share career advice for students, graduates, and those of us with a few years of experience, and anyone else in the hospitality industry. I am your host, Maria Malaniia, a hospitality graduate, a guest experience and brand specialist, and the founder of Savvy Hotelier, a place for hospitality students to ask questions and find resources for their studies and beyond. The reason I started Savvy Hotelier and this series with WHTT is a personal passion for uncovering the hidden parts of the hospitality industry. I want to show what is really possible for each and every one of us in this wonderful hospitality industry. This series will cover many areas of hospitality, such as events, tourism, wine, entrepreneurship, hotels, restaurants, and more. So make sure you follow WHTT and Savvy Hotelier to not miss the upcoming themed events in the new year. Today, we are taking a career look at the hospitality universities in Europe with representation from Denmark, Netherlands, and Switzerland. During the whole webinar, please encourage you to pop your questions for the panelists throughout in the chat, whatever you're joining, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and we'll make sure to take the time to address your questions. So, without further ado, let me introduce you our four panelists. To start with, we have Marina Brinkman, an educator, innovation researcher, and thesis advisor from Breda University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands. Then we have Anna Hammershoy, a hospitality and tourism researcher and employability lecturer at University College of Northern Denmark. Then we also have Andreu Catala, a postgraduate recruiter and at Sommet Education in Switzerland, looking after some of the most famous Swiss schools, Les Roches-en-Glyon and École du Casse. I apologize for my pronunciation. And of course, we also have Robert Zalt, Director of Career Services from Swiss Education Group, representing another group of Swiss schools, which are also really recognized and famous, such as Swiss Hotel Management School, Hotel Institute Montreux, and César Ritz College, and a couple of more. I'm sure there's, what, 6, I think. So thank you all so much for agreeing to be part of this discussion and volunteering your time to really give advice to students and professionals in the industry today. This is a topic I'm sure important to very many, especially students and graduates, and many people, unfortunately, who also lost their jobs this year due to the situation that we are in this year. So with so many backgrounds and interesting stories that we have with us today, I'd like to ask you, tell you a bit about your story and how did you get to where you are today, especially kind of, did you always know you were going to end up here, or is it kind of just serendipity that took you here? Anna, would you like to start?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, well, I would say that my career has been definitely driven by serendipity. So it's been about grabbing opportunities and following them and moving from one place to another. And that resulted in my career being very jagged, my career path, and not at all linear. So I studied communication and culture, and I worked as a tour guide. I worked as an interpreter. I worked with external communication, with customer relations, and with international purchasing. So I'm originally from Russia, but also moved to Hong Kong at some point to work there, and now I'm in Denmark. So pretty much none of it has been planned, although I always wanted to teach at some point. So that's where I am now.
Amazing. That's a perfect definition of serendipity, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And Andreu, what about you?
Yes, I would say that actually my career path has a lot of changes. I always try to have a career plan in my cases, but at the same time, actually, I have been a very good example of a very famous quote of Mike Tyson, which is everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And this is so true. And actually, my career path is a good reflection on this, because I'm from Spain, but I moved to Peru, South America, at the age of 9 years old, because my father is Peruvian and he has a business there. And my first profession was a professional football player. I started playing the first division in Peru at the age of 17 years old. Then at the age of 22, I decided to start my career there because of injuries and other reasons. And I started studying in business and technology. So I wanted actually a change of career goals at that period of my life. And I wanted actually to start working as a technology and digital consultant. And I studied my bachelor in economics and technology. So again, a good example of how I changed my career plans. I continue my career in the higher education because I started doing some activities with a business school in Spain, which is quite popular. It's ES Business School. And at that period, during my studies, I started organizing courses with ES Business School for university students because in the case of ES Business School, they were on that time only specialized in executive education. They didn't offer masters for university students. So that was the way that actually I started in the higher education. And I started seeing that actually that was a potential career path for me, that I really like to be in touch with faculties, with the students, to start discussing about potential career paths. And that was a very good beginning. Then finishing my studies, I decided I want to discover also maybe why not other kind of corporate positions. So I started working for bank. So again, I changed it of professional goals. But finally, I joined at EM Lyon Business School in France, where I started the position of giving advice to the students that they want to pursue their studies and they are asked themselves about the professional next steps. And that's the way that actually I started with this career that actually nowadays this position that nowadays I'm doing, which is to promote the schools and also to give advice on the career strategy of the students, on the next steps on their careers. And nowadays, actually, this is my main role in Sommet Education, which is to promote the masters that we have in Lyon, Andreu, and École de Caisse. But at the same time, which is the most important role that I have, is to give advice on see if the masters are the good choice for the students, and also to see if it's a good step for them.
No, amazing. You have had 3 career pivots, I think, or something.
Yes,
so yeah, who knows how many more there are?
I hope that actually this will be the last one because I'm very happy with what I'm doing now.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's we can come back to that later on as well in the discussion. And bringing it to Marina and Robert, you both were hospitality students and graduates as well in your time. So when you were graduating, did you have a career plan? And if you did it turn out the way that you had planned it to be, or is it completely different? What actually happened versus what you thought was going to happen when you were graduating? Go ahead, Marina.
Am I taking this one? Well, to be perfectly honest, I had absolutely no plan whatsoever. So I'm born and raised in Bulgaria and studied first for 2 years hotel management or hospitality management there. And then I get the opportunity to move to the Netherlands and start all over again with my bachelor in hotel management in Maastricht. I graduated from it in 3.5 years in 2000. And at that point, to be perfectly honest, I had no plan. And I loved my studies, and I knew I wanted to do something in the industry, but was just open for any kind of opportunities. So the first job that I had was in sales management. Then I think I did sales management for 2 different hotels. One property doesn't even exist anymore, for about 2.5 years. I was kind of, looking for opportunities, and my motto back then was, I really don't know what to do, so let's try out and see what fits me and what are my interests. And I knew in 2 years for sure that sales management is not my thing. And then, for instance, I moved to housekeeping, because at that point, especially when you're a sales manager, and I had nobody to really manage besides myself, and after 2 years I was done with managing myself, I wanted to manage people. So that was one kind of the driving force of me moving to housekeeping. And I think at a certain point I was a housekeeping manager, and I really, really, really loved it. But to be honest, no plan whatsoever. Well, going a bit with the flow at that time. Though somewhere during my career, I think actually it was my second job as a sales manager. I really enjoyed working with trainees. So at that point, I figured out one day I want to do something in education. And I remember that I tried to join training firms, so the big ones, but they all told me, you're too young, you don't have enough experience. Work a little bit longer and then we'll see you back. So that's basically, I think, what I did. I worked in the industry for a couple of years, and then had the chance there was a very nice opening at a hotel management school in The Hague, which was a combination of practice and teaching. I worked there for 3 years as an instructor in housekeeping and front office. And after 3 years in The Hague, moved to Breda, where currently I am for about 12 years. Teaching at this point research methods and techniques, working as a thesis supervisor, and also have the privilege to facilitate educational innovation. So, long answer to your short question, but I think it was a lot of a serendipity and following my heart. If I look back now, if I think how I ended up being where I am today.
Looks like we have a theme. Robert, what about you?
Well, it's great to be here. Hi, everybody. I think it's about looking back a little bit. And when I'm looking back at my time in the university in Las Vegas, where I'm from, there was one thing that was sure, and that was I was passionate about hospitality. Now, what is hospitality? What is all that? And so during my time, my bachelor studies, I was getting to know myself, getting to know what I like, what I don't like. I had an idea, but it was really very, very, to me, just that period was looking at my curiosity. My personality is curious, so I wanted to try everything. And I knew that hospitality was my destination, but I didn't know what would it look like. And that was the beauty of the studies, where I was able to get some internships, try things that I know I would never have an opportunity to try again, to say, oh yeah, that's great, or this is no way I want to go down that road. But at the heart of it was hospitality was there. This idea of service, this idea of helping people, this idea of creating memories, and having an impact on that. I think that's what I found out about myself. And so looking at it, was it super, strict with my plan? No, but there was a target, and that helped me to get to where I am today, for sure.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, that's you have to have, I guess, a general direction. You can have it as general as you like, right? And then test things out. The way that I understand most of you have done it is you try something, you see if you don't like it, you try the next thing, and then you learn from it, and then you move forward. And if opportunity presents itself, you take it, you pivot, and that's kind of exactly how I've also so far approached my career as well. I thought I wanted to do one thing when I was graduating. Another opportunity came up. I loved it. I still love it, but it doesn't mean that original passion and interest isn't there. It's just you apply it in a different way. And I think that's a really great way to think about it. You don't have to have a strict plan to stick to. But what is the value of making a career plan? Because especially so early on in your life, if you're in the early 20s, you're graduating, and everywhere you look, everyone says you must have a career plan. You need to make a 5-10-year plan and follow the steps, stick to it, and that's how you get succeed in life. That's how you get to senior positions in your early 30s. But how does a plan fit into life? Like, would you like to add on to that, Robert, a little bit based on what you just shared?
Certainly, Maria. I think it's really, again, getting to know yourself. To be able to create that journey, to create that path, you need to know what you like. You need to know what you don't like. You need to know a little bit about you, and that reflection takes time. And I think asking ourselves those questions, surrounding ourselves with people that say, you know what, Robert, you're really good at that. And I never would have thought that that was something that I was good at. So listening and being open, because I believe life, it's going to throw you some curveballs. Mike Tyson's going to come out from the shadows and get you right in the face. And your plan may change. But I think what's important is that we remain adaptable and remain flexible, because sometimes opportunities come that are not in that plan. And it's our moment to take advantage of it. So we need to be ready. And so if there is this 5-year or 10-year plan, I think it's more about getting to know myself and where I'm headed. And I think that the target was there. I knew what I liked. I knew my passion, but I had maybe some little goals along the way to get there, but I knew myself and I was listening to myself. And that took a long time too. The instinct, that passion from within to listen to your gut, and to persevere even after you get punched. I think that will help with your life journey, and that will help with your plan. But I repeat myself, that passion never disappeared. I knew this is where I belonged. I knew it. And I think, that's how it fit into my life. I knew hospitality is where I belonged. And I knew that very early on by asking difficult questions of myself. Thanks.
May I add something to it, Maria? I actually don't believe in the 5 to 10 years plan. I don't think such a time period has any value. As Robert indeed just said, we need to be able to adapt quickly to what life throws at us, to be perfectly honest. And as long as we are true to our heart and to our feeling, I think we can find hospitality in a lot of different industries than the typical hospitality establishment as we teach them, or our students end up, for instance, with their traineeships. So I think that is important indeed. So because I think, to be honest, a lot of graduates, at least that's what I hear now, and I heard this 20 years ago when I graduated, they don't know exactly if hospitality industry will be the industry that they will end up working. And I think if we look at statistics, as far as I know, they don't look that promising, because only about 10 to 15% of the hospitality graduates, at least in Europe, actually make a career in a typical hospitality organization. A lot of other industries are very interested in hospitality graduates because of the passion that they have, because of the hospitality skills in general as well that they possess. And that makes it, I think, very, very tough to have such a plan when you kind of realize at the end of your study, I can do so many things. I know a lot of matters and I'm so broadly skilled. Where shall I end up working?
There are so many opportunities, really. That's true. There's hospitality can be seen like a really small industry, like hotels, restaurants, and maybe tourism, but actually it's so much bigger than that.
Exactly.
From my side, actually, I believe that it's quite interesting, actually, what Robert said, and also Marina, because I always thought that actually our career must be driven by the emotional and also by the rational. And when I talk about the rational, I think to have a career goal, a professional goal, is important because actually it allows us to have a focus on something, and it allows us to start building on something. So that gives us more clarity of maybe which kind of position actually could be relevant for me, which kind of studies also. So I think this kind of rational part that our career must be driving can be also important. But again, actually, we need to be flexible. We need to have adaptability, as Robert said, no? Because actually many things can happen, and actually many opportunities can come, and we need to be ready for and also open to these kind of opportunities. But at the same time, actually, I think it's important to drive our career by the emotional, and that's where actually the patient has a very important. Is very important, no? Because actually, at the end, actually, if we are going to drive our career only by the rational, we will be only driven by position, by the sector, by the salary. So of course, actually, a lot of people actually they take a lot of consideration on these kind of topics. But if you think it well, actually, our job is going to spend. We are going to spend a lot of part of our time in our job. So patience is important because actually, patience is going to help us to make interesting projects, to make interesting results. So I would say that actually both are quite important when we decided where to drive our career. emotional, but also at the same time rational with the professional goal.
Yeah, definitely. I think you need to find a fine balance. If you follow one and not the other, you will burn out in some way. And yeah, and also actually talking about that, has it changed this year? Would you think that career planning has changed in 2020, or are we still gonna go about the same way, or do we need to focus more on the passion now than ever before? Anyone?
Perhaps I
Andreu.
could say something about it. Well, as you said yourself, Maria, we're teaching employability at our education, international hospitality management, and we teach general employability skills. So CV writing and networking, and how to use LinkedIn, how to make the best out of LinkedIn, and personal branding. And we did it before, and we're also doing it this year. So there are some things which I think are so basic and essential that they remain the same. But on the other hand, I think we also focused a lot this year on what the other panelists actually said: flexibility, adaptability. So this becomes more important than before. And we're also focusing a lot on transferable skills. Also, as Marina said, our students actually have excellent transferable skills. So other industries can also be attractive to our students. So we really encourage our students to search and research for opportunities for careers outside the narrow hospitality industry, right? So to search for opportunities outside hotels. So, for example, one of our soon-to-be graduates just got a job at a McKinsey & Company. So it's not a hospitality company, it's not a tourism company, but she'll be working with event management and travel planning. So she'll also be using her, specific skills she learned in her education. And I have another graduate who works at a public library, and he's in charge of customer experience and customer management. So again, I think it's really, really important that, we teach our students to see different opportunities, open up for different opportunities, especially in 2020, which has been a horrible year for tourism and hospitality, of course.
Yeah, I think also hospitality, outside of hospitality, there are still events, there are still things that are taking place in other industries. I think I always give this example is corporate events have to be planned by someone. They might not be the most fun events to plan, but occasionally we have a Christmas party that can be quite fun to plan, but someone has to plan them. Someone needs to do that. And I think no better than a hospitality passionate person to do that. So that's a perfect example. We have a great question from the audience is, what are some of the emerging opportunities you've observed in our industry that you want to advise others so that we can be more adaptive and agile? Anyone wants to take that? Robert?
Yeah, I think there are many different opportunities that we don't necessarily see on stage. There's a lot of opportunities backstage, and these motors that are driving hospitality from marketing to management systems to there's a lot there that's emerging in sales, in human resources that again can be general in sense, but could be focusing in on travel and tourism. So, and it's not even just there. Many students are actually, what this has been doing for many people they've been asking themselves difficult questions, and they've actually becoming more creative in what they do and how they do it. So we're seeing some students that are graduating actually ready to take chances with their startups, with their ideas, with their creativity. So I think, by not having, this opportunity that when everything was just stormy, I think there was a lot of light as well, where the best of us was starting to come out when we were able to explore ourselves even more and to follow, as cliche as it may sound, but to follow our passion, what we like, and to just go for it. But again, just to answer the question, I think there's a lot of opportunities behind the scenes that may not necessarily that we all see on a day-to-day basis. But from revenue management to finance to HR, many backstage jobs.
Definitely, yeah. Look deeper and find other opportunities. Really take some time to research, and I think that's what we've been doing this year for sure. There's been some more time to do these things. And Marina, I want to ask you a question in terms of being a thesis advisor at Breda. Have you had to adjust the way you work with students in this area this year, or how has 2020 changed that for you?
Well, I think the first adjustment that we all had to go through is move our contacts online. I think that's kind of the obvious. But in essence, nothing really changed in the way of how intensively we worked with our students as thesis supervisors within our program at Breda. We were worried at the beginning that a lot of projects wouldn't be able to go through and that people will experience study delays. But to be perfectly honest, that did not happen for the students at Breda University of Applied Sciences. I think that one of the reasons was, even though some of them had to go back to their home countries, some of them had to end up their traineeship, they were agile enough and flexible enough to find alternatives way to collect their data, for instance. And we also see that the hospitality companies that they worked with were also very responsive and very willing to help with alternative assignments. I think we had like a list with alternative assignments that the students themselves came up with. So yes, definitely we kind of in a way that the distance and the fact that we have to be online and the inability to meet each other in Breda, have coffee together, yeah, we do miss that, and that is changed. But it didn't affect that much the quality of the work of our students and the time span that they needed to graduate. So I'm very, very thankful that we all kind of teamed up together, including our industry partners. I think that was one of the success factors in what I'm basically sharing right now.
That's amazing. And again, we come back to adaptability, flexibility, and getting really, asking yourself questions, but pushing yourself outside that box, outside of your comfort zone, and doing more and being more open-minded to what you can do, especially if, for example, you always thought you wanted to do a very specific thing like restaurants. It's really tough right now. What else can you do? Where else can you apply those skills? And events are something that kind of we'll talk about actually in January about events, but it is becoming semi-virtual, semi-real life. How can you apply those skills there, for example? I think that's just once again reiterating that you just have to be more open-minded, more adaptable and flexible, especially than ever before.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, a lot of students actually experience that they are creative. Sometimes I do hear, oh, I'm not creative enough, at least in comparison with others. And I think the situation kind of forced them to, look further than the obvious solutions, look further than the obvious kind of projects for their theses. And again, in hindsight, I think this had a very positive effect, at least I hope so as well, on their confidence. And it gave them a boost, even though the times are tough. I mean, I don't want us to make to make the crisis a trivial thing, not at all. But I do see it from the positive side.
Yeah. Anyone has anything to add? No.
Well, from my side, actually, I think coming back again to the subject about the opportunities that we can find in the industry. Indeed, I agree. Actually, there are many opportunities that are hidden. We need to think about how can we transfer the skills. As Anna said before, actually, hospitality professionals, they have a lot of skills that actually have a very high value in the industry, in many sectors. I mean, I see it nowadays in Guillaume or in the Roche. My colleagues from the career services, actually, they give support to our students to how can they transfer those skills in other sectors. And it's quite interesting because we see how some students, actually, they are now being recruited by JP Morgan or Bloomberg or luxury companies. And that's something quite interesting, because at the end, these companies, Bloomberg and JP Morgan, they are operating in the finance industry, but they are looking also for profiles that actually they are not so financial analytic, but they have those soft skills that we have in the hospitality industry. Those, I don't know, cross-cultural competences. They know how to manage these multicultural differences. So indeed, actually, there are hidden opportunities. So we just need to open the eyes, and in some cases, actually, to have those support of that mentor or that professional that can advise you and guide you to find those opportunities, because indeed they are there. Now, the question is how actually those positions that you can find in a hidden opportunities, that they are going to help you to keep growing on your professional path. So that's another topic. But indeed, actually, I still thinking that actually there are many opportunities for hospitality professionals, because indeed we have transferable skills that are very valuated in the industry.
I think I've heard a lot this year that obviously the industry has lost a lot of talent. The talent has decided to completely leave the industry because they're not sure what's going to happen next, and they are being sought after by other industries, whether it's finance, whether it's retail or something else, less obvious, because they know that these people work really hard, they know how to work hard, and they have the soft skills that are really, really difficult to teach. And once you got that, you only have to learn some technical skills, and that's the easiest thing to do. I think that's an opportunity for lots of, whether you're studying hospitality or whether you're currently working already in hospitality and you're looking what else you can do. There is just a little bit more thinking that goes into it, but you can definitely do more. You can do a lot of different things. And I want to follow up on this with a question from Maria, not myself, someone else. As people who work with students and young people, how do you encourage proactiveness and curiosity in them? Can that be taught? Robert?
I think one of the things that we need to do is be able to guide, and we're not becoming a coach almost, to be able to guide the student along not only their academic but also their professional journey at the same time. I think what as a lecturer in personal development, one of my goals was to try to ignite that spark of curiosity. I mentioned it before, to be curious. And then once you actually put that into practice, and you may find some wins here and there, I think it can be taught in a sense that, go out there, do it. It's not going to come to you. You need to go on that path. You need to go forward. So with what you know about yourself and what we heard today about learning about, well, guess what? I may not have done that job before, but I have some aspects in my life experience that actually makes me fit there. Then go for it. Be proactive. Develop your networks. Develop, ask questions. Surround yourself with people that have those same interests. Think about, if you're not networking, you're not working. So develop your audience, that's around you. This will help you create that spark and that proactiveness to ask those questions. Curiosity is also about asking questions, right? I think we need to ask those questions. And again, back to another point as well, attitude is so important. That those soft skills and our attitudes and our personalities, it may not fit in hospitality, but guess what we have in a hospitality education is a business education that can take you into so many different areas that you may never even thought before. But the way you're going to get there is to be guided and have that partner along the way to help you ask those questions, to help you get proactive, to help you be curious. I think that's that's important, especially young, when we're just coming into our first year of studies, when the whole world is wow.
Yeah, I mean, Anna, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. If I was just thinking that, first of all, I think it was a great question about whether you can teach curiosity. I think it's so great if you're lucky in life to have good teachers. To be honest, I think it's an excellent thing, because a teacher who's excited about something, about a field, right, about a topic, I think that that can really, he or she can pass on the excitement to the students as well. And also, it would be amazing if you could find a mentor, somebody who's willing to listen to you and willing to ask you questions, because sometimes you also need to be challenged with some questions, like what do you want in life, right? What interests you? Why do you want to follow this path and not the other? And so having a good teacher, that's, if you're lucky, I think that's a great thing. And finding a mentor, that is also an amazing gift. But also, I think Robert also mentioned that it's a great experience to be in work placement and internships, because this is where you can really, get your hands dirty and try your talents and your skills in practice. And I also see many students who are a little bit lost during the dry academic studies, but then they go out in the internship and they get transformed, because they really feel inspired by being, in a hotel, in an event company, being surrounded by, the actual action. So I think yeah, try and get some experience as much as possible. Internships, volunteer experience, that can ignite the spark, I think.
Yeah, I think it's important to, if you can't find that passion within yourself, find someone who can help you ignite that spark. And the perfect lecturer, teacher will help you do that. But of course, not everyone clicks with everyone. You just have to find what works for you. And if you're stuck, one thing that I learned in my 5 years since graduation, you're responsible for yourself and your own personal development. If you are lucky enough to find someone who takes an interest in you by themselves and want to help you because they see a possibility in you, that's amazing, but that's quite rare. You have to be interested in yourself first. And once you reach out to someone, and then you click with them, you can then ask them to help you carry on that drive and carry on doing things. But you have to really decide for yourself what you want, and it doesn't have to be, oh, I want to have that role, but okay, I want more. I want to figure something out. I need someone to help me do that. And that little interest, at least you asking questions, you doing a bit more than the bare minimum, will keep you moving forward for sure.
Maria, do we have a moment or a second to add something
definitely.
to it? Because I think the proactivity that we are discussing, the curiosity, it's not only the job of the students themselves, but I think there's also a job to be done by the hospitality educators. I kind of believe that we need to provide educational formats which give freedom and space for such proactivity, and maybe foster and nurture it a little bit more than traditionally designed educational formats. I think that is also very, very important to point out. In that sense, also an appeal to the hospitality students here also to be critical in the way that they are taught, because very often if in the courses you are spoon-fed, then how can you expect from someone to be proactive if let's say the course design of the syllabus is such detailed and there it is listed what you need to do, and then you kind of expect students to be proactive. I think it's important to mention this as well. It's also about the way hospitality educators basically provide and organize their programs in order to be able to nurture the skills that we are discussing now.
It's a two-way street.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street.
Definitely. Well, that's the perfect world, isn't it? I've got a couple of audience questions, and I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you. So let me go with one from the audience. Is what question do students usually not ask when it comes to their career developments? What should they be asking that you feel like they're usually missing out because they don't see that perspective yet? Anna?
Oh boy, I think that's a tough one. I think probably the biggest issue is that you understand the importance of questions probably too late sometimes. When the course is finished, when you've graduated, then you realize, I should have asked those questions before. I should have invested into that before. Um, so yeah, I think it's a tough one, to be honest. Probably I would really like, of course, I would like the students to envision their careers, right? But then I look at myself 25 years ago, and then what kind of visions did I have? So I think, there is a Danish philosopher who says, well, you live the life forward, but you understand it backward, right? So you gain the understanding after you've gained your experiences. So I don't think I can give you a better answer than that, Maria. I'm sorry.
Maria, can I add something?
Yeah.
When I was in recruitment, what I looked for wasn't on the CV. Let me repeat that. When I was recruiting, what I was looking for in a potential candidate, it was not on the CV. So what I try to encourage those students that I'm coaching, supporting, or mentoring is to have them ask questions about themselves that is not on that CV, that are not there. That is going to make the difference. That's going to make the difference going forward in any industry. It's your personality. It's who you are, and trying to find that. So I think, what's the question not to ask? Well, what's not there? That's the question.
I think I just saw a comment from Dimitri as well that phrased the exact same thing. What else can I do to get what I want to go? And that could be something that you didn't even imagine being on the path of where you want to be, and asking yourself, I guess, the tough questions, which is why we want the mentors to ask us those tough questions. But if you don't have one, they are just try to completely reframe the question. Ask if you're asking yourself as a third person, and look for the other things you could do. Andreu, I think you had something you wanted to add in the beginning.
No, actually, what Anna and Roberta said was very, very complete, to be honest.
Okay, okay, brilliant, amazing. And then also, one interesting question we got from very beginning from Jessica. I wanted to save it to the end. Is have you had any person you really looked up to, or they had a great impact on your career, and how did they help you?
Yes, I will start if you want. Actually, of course. Actually, I have people that actually they support me and they help me to grow up and also to ask myself the good questions. So usually you can find it with your managers. I think that's a good resource, no? Because managers actually they have experience. They work directly with you, so actually they know your weakness, they know your strengths. So I think it can be a very good source. And then, of course, your friends. I think there is no better actually to know more than you actually than your friends. And so that could be a very good source of asking the good questions, actually.
Can I also add something? To be very, very honest, I think those mentors in a way were my parents. They were the ones who gave me the example that if you follow your heart in your job, and then you will find happiness and you will find success one way or another. So it's not a particular person during my professional career per se. I think there are qualities of so many people that I worked with which inspired me and I admired or I looked up to. But in the essence, it really starts, for me at least, with my parents and seeing that they did follow their dream in their job. My father, for instance, is a sailor, so he have seen the world and with all the consequences for us as a family. So that can be also very, very, very helpful, maybe inspiring to look further and not only in your professional career. Who else might be a good example or you can look up to?
Awesome. I think I've got, we're running out of time really quickly. This is an amazing conversation. I wish we could carry on forever. But I want to make sure we get to some of the really burning questions that I think are important. And this one, I think, would have been super useful to me 8 years ago, but I'm sure it will resonate with lots of people, is there's obviously usually a great kind of group of students that know exactly what they want to do. They figure it out early on and they make their career plan and they stick to it, and they're good. You just have to coach them through it. There's a group of students who kind of know something, but they're not really sure. They're open-minded, and then there's obviously someone else who's completely lost because they like you to do everything and they don't really know where to start. And they may usually probably in the first year of their studies as well, they're a bit lost. Where do you start? What do you do? How do you help someone like that with figuring out their options and career paths, and where do you even start? Can we start with Robert, and then everyone gives a little bit of advice?
Well, I think again, it's about being that partner, right? Being that go-to person to be able to ask those questions, to be able to get to know really what's underneath, what's ticking. I like to call them the 3 Ps, right? We need to prepare ourselves by doing the research externally, doing the research internally. We tend to forget the research internally, what my values are, what's important to me, those type of tough questions that we may never had to answer before. Yeah, I think it's very important, as we were talking about earlier, the emotional and the rational, we need to have that target. We need to be able to follow that target. And the last thing that I'd like to do with students, alumni as well, is think about their personality. Think about themselves and how they fit within that industry or that job, and thinking about I belong there or I don't, or I think we need to, it's about relationships. Everything, a lot of what we talked about was relationships. My mentor was my dad. He gave me the best career advice ever. So I think those relationships, you'll never know when they're going to come, but that's what we do at SEG as well. Is to ask those questions and personally, guide, encourage, empower, and help students and alumni create their path.
I would like to add something as well, maybe a very hands-on way of how to tackle such a situation. I like to create visuals, and I think in the past couple of years that I try to answer this question with students, that can be very helpful to mind map, write it off, make a mood board for yourself, stick it next to your screen, your motto at this point. That can be very, very helpful, especially because you are forced to write it off, tell it to someone, talk about it all the time. And while you share with the others your questions, your worries, your ideas about your career, you kind of suddenly find out what it is that you want to do, or which path you would like to take. But I think it can be really, really helpful to get yourself those colored pencils and a huge piece of paper and write it off, make those mind maps. They can be really hands-on tool to move on further. And also to be able to cross out what you do not want. That helps as well.
Yes. If I can add, Maria, as Robert said before, also I think the emotional rational place is key here. I would say that actually I will start with the student talking about what are his sensibilities, his passion. Again, this is quite important. So some student actually can say, well, I like F&B, I like other sector in tourism. So it's a good way actually to start. But my second question will be, in which field actually you can be very good, actually which field actually you can develop indeed your career, because actually it's not only about what do I like, it's also about what do I have the competences, or at least actually I can have a potential to develop those competences. So again, here we are complementing out again the emotional with the rational. So I think that's the most important in this kind of conversation at the beginning, moreover for these young students. And if we finally actually don't have a clear idea about where to drive our career, I think it's a good start to start exploring. No, if I have a passion to work with people directly and also for sales, why not actually to explore some sectors that actually I didn't do before, I don't know. And maybe actually this can give me a more clarity of the opportunities that I can have and also the potential that I can have next to this.
Brilliant. Anna, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, I very much agree with Marina. That's exactly what I tell my students as well. Mind map and say, okay, if you like, for example, if you like sustainability and you like hotels, could you do something with environmental management? But within many hotels have now environmental departments. So try and write things down, mind map, visualize. But I would also say, if you have a career counselor at your school, that's obviously a great place to start to ask questions, because those people usually know what they are talking about and they can help you a lot as a student. But also use each other, use your colleagues, use your peers. It helped me a lot as a student to talk to my fellow students, and we really inspired each other. And one of my best sources of inspiration was my best friend in college. So, and we still keep in touch, and we still follow each other, and we're still friends. So I think that is also invaluable when you're a student, that you inspire each other and help each other and give each other advice.
A brilliant thing to end on as well, because you are creating this network of hospitality colleagues in university, and you are currently on the same page. So there's a lot of things that you can learn from each other and grow together and develop that career. I think it's the perfect place to start networking, to learn networking. And it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. The networking doesn't have to be fancy LinkedIn content creation, whatever you would like to call it. Stay in touch with the colleagues and that you work with. Stay in touch with the students at your university that you were close with or weren't so close with. Just keep some sort of contact, see what they're doing, and that is a foundation for your hospitality network for maybe further down the line, 5, 10, 15 years. You will reconnect and you'll find another opportunity through them. So don't forget to really build that friendship or some sort of connection. I think it's amazing. We kind of already covered my very last question in terms of what's your best piece of advice. Everyone gave a brilliant piece of advice in terms of figuring out what you want to do and where to start. And we've got networking, we've got taking opportunities, being adaptable, flexible, build connections with your friends and peers, and figure out, look inside yourself, what you want to do, what is your passion, what is the thing that you want to pursue, and what you don't want to pursue. I think that's very important. That's how I got into hospitality. I knew what I didn't want to do, and then kind of resulted in hospitality as a exercise. So that is a brilliant thing to end on. I think we've got a couple more minutes. Does anyone want to add a couple of last words to wrap up? I think it's been a fantastic conversation. I want to thank you all for being part of it. It's been amazing, and I really look forward to kicking this off in January. But thank you so much for being part of the first episode.
Thank you. Yeah, that was amazing. You remember Maya Angelou? She said, it's not what the people do. You may not remember what they do. You may not remember what people say, but what you remember is about how the way people make you feel. And I think that's what we're all about. And then going forward, that's what's going to make us even get through this storm, and we'll see the sunshine on the other side.
Yeah, Anna?
I saw a question in the chat there from Pramaya, and I really think it's an important question to address. I think it's a woman. She says, "How do you know if you have what it takes to work abroad?" And I think it's an excellent question. I think you shouldn't doubt yourself. You have what it takes. You just need to go out there and try it. It's one of the best experiences ever. Go to another country and try and build a career there, even for a year, even for 2, but it will transform you completely. So don't doubt yourself. Just try it. You have what it takes. And thank you so much for the opportunity to participate. that was really great. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a brilliant piece of advice.
Thank you very much, Maria. For my side, actually, I just wanted to close my case just to say that actually for the students that nowadays they ask them about their career path that they want to follow, it is true that actually the hospitality nowadays is not in the best performance. It's indeed a reality. But we are facing a crisis, which is true. But a crisis in Chinese means opportunity. So I truly believe that actually there will be many, many opportunities for these young hotelier, young hospitality professionals once we finish with this pandemic situation, because it will end and people, they need to travel, people, they need to take vacations. So actually the hospitality will recover, and we see that actually it's a resilient industry. So crisis, and again, means opportunity. I believe that, for example, the young hospitality professionals, they belong to the digital generation. So these kind of competences actually are going to be very evaluated in industry. So keep the hope. If you have the passion to continue your career in the hospitality, don't let your passion in another side actually keep there. Just find a way to actually to transfer your skills to another sector and continue with your professional goals. So that will be my last message.
Wow, thank you so much, Marina.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to add as well, Andreu. So grab each opportunity coming along your way. So, you know, when life closes a door, then another window opens up, and don't be afraid that it's a detour or the wrong path. Very often I do hear, oh my, if I don't get this job, then I will fail or I'm not going to succeed. There's so many opportunities out there, and grab them. As Anna said, I think in the beginning as well, then our careers are they're not linear. So, they're with bubbles and they look like this on a if we can draw them on a chart. And well, if you follow your heart, then you will be fine.
Amazing.
That's all for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. That was the first episode of Discover Hospitality. We aim to uncover job opportunities and those little things you can do in hospitality industry that are not often discussed and talked about. So thank you, all these panelists, for your time, to volunteer your time to be part of this discussion. Next episode, which will be on the 7th of January, will be all about events. So make sure you follow WHTT and Savvy Hotelier on LinkedIn to get reminded and to make sure to sign up to that event once we post it live. Of course, events is a lot more than what is usually perceived. And just like everything else, we're here to look into those deep bits and pieces and help you figure out what you can do and want to do with your career in the hospitality industry. So that is it. Thank you so much, and I will see you in January.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.